Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Sports Business Classroom. From navigating the transition from a decorated D1 volleyball career to identifying new professional avenues, Colleen shared that success in the sports industry is driven by a go-getter mindset, authentic preparation, and the courage to step outside of your comfort zone. Colleen, Finney, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sergio.
Yeah, it's so good to have you here. I will say this. So as the father of two little girls, both of who are playing sports, I'm really excited to just dive into your journey, learn a little bit more about you and, learn more about like what's made you you. It's like being a dad is one of the most important roles that I'm playing right now.
Yeah.
And so any opportunity for me to learn about how to be a better dad and just help my girls grow into outstanding young women such as yourself, like I'm game. So thank you for making the time.
Of course. Look, I'm sure you're doing just fine, but I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Well, I always like to start at the beginning here.
Mhm.
Would love to hear a little bit more about like where you grew up, what brought you into sports. Like, tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
Absolutely. So originally, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, and for most of my life, I was raised right outside of it in a little town called Blythewood, and I'm sure you've probably never even heard of it. It was about, I want to say, 15, 20 minutes away from the University of South Carolina, and but we'll get into, people say, well, why didn't you go to University of South Carolina? But I'll save that for a little later. My mom and dad were very academic people. My mom studied engineering. My dad was a lawyer.
Wow.
And but they wanted us to get involved with sport, not necessarily to play it at a high level, but that they understood the social aspect of it. They wanted us to be socializing with other kids our own age. You speak of your daughters, it's a great way to meet friends. It's a great way to understand how to talk to other kids. And that was my mom and dad's reason for doing it. And it's kind of funny, but I played tennis, t-ball. I was on the swim and dive team. I know it's crazy, but I really was doing a lot. And it was kind of a funny story of what actually got me involved in volleyball in the first place. But that was kind of my background and how I got introduced into sports.
What age did you start playing sports?
I'd probably say around 3 or 4. It was
Okay.
very young.
Yeah, and this was your parents wanting to
Yes.
instill like certain values and you like what do you remember what you started playing first? What sport you started playing first?
I think it was T-ball. We went T-ball and then soccer because I think T-ball is the natural, the little kids. You're not getting pitched
For
at, you're
sure.
just hitting off the little thing. And then we went T-ball, went straight into soccer. Soccer was kind of a huge kids sports at the time, and I played that for actually a number of years.
Wow. Okay. And did you play sports in high school or just tell
Yeah.
me about the
So
progression of sports that you
absolutely.
played and how that all
So
played out?
I went soccer and I played soccer pretty much throughout my entire childhood. I was QB1 at recess. I was
Okay.
playing football with the guys. I never did any gymnastics. I never played softball, but really was doing a number of things, especially through YMCA, just local clubs and organizations. Well, one day I wake up and Sergio, I'm like, I'm done. Mom, I don't want to play sports anymore. And I quit playing soccer.
Okay.
And so I quit playing soccer, which was my quote unquote chosen sport at the time. And this was around sixth grade. And I think, around that age, I'm not sure how old your daughters are, but you start to feel like, me, I was 4'11" in fifth grade. Like I'm very tall. I'm feeling very insecure. And I'm just like, I'm over this. I quit
Mm-hmm.
playing soccer. And my mom is trying to encourage me to do like modeling. And that's not working out either. I'm like, Mom, I hate this. I don't want to do this. And she told me, and I remember this around that age, and she said, well, you're not going to just sit around the house and do nothing. Like, that's not
Right.
what we raised you to be. Yes, you're doing fine in school, but you need something else that you're going to do outside of it. She forces me to start playing volleyball.
Wow.
I I'm not even kidding. Did not want to do it, did not like it. So I'm probably around 13 years old when she's forcing me to play volleyball now. I play for a local team in Columbia, South Carolina, and I'll never forget, like, this is a very low level regional team. We're going to like Aiken, South Carolina, Greenville, Columbia, and that's really the extent of where we're traveling to. I'm telling her, Mom, I hate this sport so much. I don't want to play this anymore. And she said, Well, your father paid for the whole season, so you're not quitting. Like, quitting is not an option here. And I said,
Yep.
Fine, I'll suck it up. I'll keep playing through the end of the season, but the end of the year, I'm done. Our last tournament is in Aiken, South Carolina. And I will never forget. It was crazy to me because I was sitting there kind of expecting, oh, I'm done with this after this. I don't want to play anymore. And that tournament, I was like, wow, I'm actually going to miss this. I'm having so much fun. I've never felt, this is the first time in my life my height feels like it's giving me an advantage.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, I'll stick with it. And I told her this. And the moment I told my mom I was going to stick with volleyball, she was like, okay, we're going to do it to the fullest extent. And she asked the club director in Columbia, South Carolina, could I train with the AAU team, which was your national team that gets to go to AAU every year with the age group that was older than me? The club director says yes. And that moment was a big turning point in my life because let me tell you, I did not play a single match during this entire time, like training, even going through the last little bit of the season. And she put me in for 1 point in Florida down at AAU Nationals. And I
Okay.
remember I got one block, but it was such a turning point because I was coached by a woman who looked like me, who was also tall. And it was kind of like a good way for me to emulate and say, not only do I like volleyball, but I can see like parts of myself in the other people that are around me. And I can see it kind of evoking this very like inspirational and how much I'm starting to want it for myself versus my mom kind of forcing me to do it.
Right. Right. That's amazing. No, I think that's so important, right? It's just
Yeah.
being around people that look like you, that inspire you, that show you what's possible. I know that this is part of your story moving forward, and we will get to that. But that's amazing. And so you did that. You said this was in sixth grade?
Yes, sixth grade. And funny, I played for, so the only sports I played in middle school were soccer and volleyball. But it's very interesting, I was playing on the soccer team in sixth grade, and then it's like 10 years of my life kind of just went away, and I started playing volleyball. But when I started playing volleyball around that age, did not do another sport.
Gotcha. Okay. And did you play volleyball all throughout high school?
Yes, all throughout high school, I went to Blythewood High School. I was coached by Coach Mary Hall, who was one of
Okay.
the most winningest volleyball coaches ever. And I'll actually tell you a story. So, after this brief period that I'm playing for the national team, the you know club team, and I got to chance to go to nationals with the older group. The next year, or it was either the next year or the year after, something I don't know. These timelines are running together.
It all
But
kind of blends together, right? I mean, you got a
100%.
lot going on.
And you have to start summer training for high school. And high school season is coming up. And I need you to understand my educational background. My mom was, I told you, very academic. If I brought home a B, that was not good enough. And
Hmm.
I went to a kind of specialized school in elementary school that fed into a middle school, and you're learning, I pretty much always say that was probably the basis of a lot of different educational things that I had for myself, where I was really able to learn. And just I loved history, and you were able to kind of see things a little bit a different perspective than what the actual curriculum was for the state, if that makes sense. Well,
Hmm.
anyways, there was a feeder high school that I could have gone into, but that at that point, I'm starting to realize, oh, you can get recruited to go to school. And back in these days, you could get recruited a lot earlier. And so I was I started volleyball pretty late. And at that time, girls were starting to get interest for colleges in eighth grade. Well,
Wow. I didn't know that.
and so actually I was getting emails eighth grade saying, hey, we're interested in you. Either come to the camp or come to a showcase. We want to, learn more about you. I went to so I'm like getting this interest about where volleyball could potentially take me, but also we're about to start summer training for the high school. Our I decided not to go to that feeder high school that would have maybe been better for me academically because the high school that I ended up going to, Blythewood High School, was the best volleyball high school in the area. And coach had produced a lot of talent, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
girls that were going D1 were playing. Now, also remember, I'm still pretty insecure in myself at this point, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. I'm starting to understand, but I don't know where my place is in the world. And I go to training. Sergio, the first day of training, I'm not kidding, probably 200 girls show up. And she
Wow.
ran that like a military boot camp. You started off 2 runs around the track. You do bleachers. You go inside. This is outdoors. You go inside. You go do a whole circuit. Then you go and start volleyball specific uh, agility drills. And then you start practice after that. So after the first day, you start to see a little bit less, a little bit less.
Yep.
But
Start to dwindle down all the folks that, just don't have it in them,
absolutely.
right?
But by the time we got to tryouts, I want to say there was 115 girls still there,
Wow.
which is absolutely, and my high school is very big. So this is, you know, crazy amount of girls that want to participate. And I'm telling my mom, God, I'd be just lucky to make JV. And I'm seriously thinking in my head, I don't even know if I'm gonna make the JV team. The day of, and she did cuts every single day. We had a 3-day high school tryout. It was crazy. And every single day you kind of get the roster that she posts and says, this is who has, made the second round of it. I made it all 3 days. And then you got a text message whether you were on varsity or JV, or if you were invited to be a manager. And so
Wow.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. And I'm upstairs and I'm trying not to check my phone. And then I get this text and I'm reading it and I'm like, what? It says, like, congratulations, you've been invited to the varsity program. And I was like heart beating out of my chest, like, what? I run downstairs. I show my mom. I'm like, Mom, I can't believe it. Like, I didn't even think I was gonna make JV and I made varsity. And, a couple years later, I asked my coach, I'm like, it's always crazy. I didn't think I was going to expect to make varsity. And she said, Colleen, I saw where you were going to grow into it because of the person that you were and the things that you were doing at that time. She said, sure, you weren't the most talented on the team, but you were 14 years old. Of course, I wasn't expecting that. But it was every single day you came to practice, you were ready to work, you asked questions, you asked, hey, like I see that you have uh 10 middles already deep. You need an outside. Is there any way that I can start training that or becoming in a right side? And she said, you were coachable, willing to learn, had grit, and you were also very respectful. And she said, I would take that over someone with the highest level of skill that you can't coach, that doesn't have leadership ability, etc. And she was turned into a great mentor of mine all 4 years. And that's still a woman. Every time I come home, me and her talk to this day. And she has always been in my corner and advocating for me. And I'm always truly blessed that I had her in my life. And
What an amazing opportunity. You being such like, you being a young woman,
yes,
right? There's so many people there, right? You're not even expecting that,
yes,
right? And just out of nowhere, somebody comes out and sees something in you that you didn't even at the time see in yourself.
exactly.
Right. And that's just such a, I'm sure that was such a confidence booster for you. Right.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that's, I've done some research on you and I think that that's probably a common theme in your life, right? Where, you're either given opportunities or create opportunities for
Yeah.
yourself. And then you just continue to grow, right? You continue to stretch your limits, continue to grow. Um, that's incredible. And so you played high school
Yes.
volleyball all 4 years.
And and it's kind of funny. I don't mean to cut you off, but it's kind of funny because you talk about gaining that confidence for yourself, right? Well, I played all 4 years at Blythewood High School, but my sophomore year, and this is a critical age for young women at the time because the rules are different now. You can't commit this early anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
high level volleyball players were committing freshman year or sophomore year of high school. And
Wow.
so I'm playing not just high school volleyball, but club volleyball. And I started off at the club in Columbia, South Carolina. And, I'll never forget my dad sat me down and we weren't, we were comfortable, but he sat me down and had said, "Honey, are you doing this for fun? Are you doing this to go earn a scholarship?" And I said, "I'm doing it to go earn a scholarship." He said, "Okay, let's make no mistake. That's what I'm looking for as well." And I said, "Gotcha, Dad. Like, I hear you." Well,
Message received,
message
right? Message
received.
is, yeah.
Well, I was starting to think about where I was at, and I started realizing I was kind of plateauing. And it wasn't that I just felt like I wasn't getting better. I loved the directors that I was playing under at SC Midlands. Those are women that would always have my back. But I was starting to feel like, God, I'm not growing into the player that I want to be. And
Okay.
so I took a risk and I was looking to go play somewhere else. And me and my mom were evaluating where that was going to be. Were we going to drive 2.5 hours to Greenville? Were we going to go drive to Atlanta and figure it out? Were we going to drive to Charleston, South Carolina? Well, we ultimately decided to play for a club team in Charlotte, North Carolina. So my mom, who has just been a superwoman, I'm sure you can gather that right now, was driving me to Charlotte, North Carolina, which was an hour and 30 minutes, 3 days out the week. As soon as school is done, we go home, we take a nap. I make a little turkey and cheese sandwich. We're on the road to Charlotte. We go practice for 2, 3 hours. We come back. It's 11:30 p.m. You get your schoolwork done. You wake up. You do the same thing.
Wow.
But I took a risk, and that risk really led to, I think, me being able to earn a scholarship at the school of my dreams at the time,
Which was
Clemson.
Clemson,
Yes.
right?
And
Okay. And so you when what year did you earn that scholarship?
gosh, Sergio, I don't know which year this was, but this was my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
And when
Okay.
I earned that, I was so, again, I'm having these feelings like, wow, I can't believe I just got that. And we talk about family. My mom went to Clemson. My older sister was at Clemson at the time. Eventually I went to Clemson and my twin brother went to Clemson.
So this was like your dreams manifested.
Dreams manifested. I mean, we grew up going to bowl games, like down
Yeah.
the Orange Bowl game down in Miami. We went to, I think it was the Peach Bowl preseason where they played, I think it was Auburn down in Atlanta. We went to basketball games. I grew up loving, like that was the only school that felt like home. So for me, not just committing to Clemson, but just receiving an offer was the biggest day of my life. And I'll never forget when I posted this offer because the big thing was Snapchat at this time. I put it on Snapchat. And all my friends that were Clemson fans were like, "What? I'm so happy for you. I can't believe it." And I was like, "I can't believe it either." But yeah, that was definitely my dream school.
And at the time, it sounds like just academics, volleyball, that was your whole life. Is that
That
right?
oh, that
Like
was
you
it.
had no more time for anything else.
Well, not even time. Mom and dad weren't playing around. They were
Yeah.
pretty strict, and I'll be honest with you, like I was not going to I did not go to a house party ever. I
Yeah.
think the only thing I ever went to was like my friend's senior day party, senior year of high school. And by this time, I was already early enrolled into Clemson.
Wow.
So there was no house parties. If I spent the night at a friend's house, I mean, these are friends I've known for years. My parents know their parents deeply. And
Right.
even then, it's like, I need your location. I need to know where you're at all times. And I'll be honest with you, that made for a struggle at that age where you're trying to understand, God, my mom, she's so strict. And I'm spending a lot
Right.
of time with my mom because my dad's working, but I'm like, she's so strict. She doesn't understand me. But it's funny because now I call her up and I'm like, I get it. Like, you really set me up for success.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because so my daughter's 8.
Yeah.
So she's got a long ways to go to get
Mm.
to, your path and your story. But there's definitely a little bit, like I know what it takes to get to a big time school and
Yeah.
to, get good grades. And I've had the opportunity to be surrounded by amazing people. And so you kind of walk that tightrope, right? Where you're like, listen, this is what it takes to be great, right? Like I know
Yeah.
the path and I can teach you the path, but also it is hard as a young person to kind of accept that, right? When like you're trying to be uncommon and extraordinary, right? You can't do the things that ordinary people are doing, right? Like you have to, by definition, go above and beyond. And it sounds like that's what your parents instilled in you from a very young age.
100%. And I'll never forget, like, me and my mom would get into it because, I'm 14 running my little mouth because I think I know everything. And I would say to her, Mom, I just don't understand. Like, all these other girls, they get to go out and just walk around the mall and they're wearing crop tops. Like, why can't I go do that? She's like, no, like, I don't want you to do that. They're, those are, and not to say anything bad, but like, those are going to be women when you get to be an adult, you're going to not want the same lifestyle that they're living.
Right.
And you want to be different. And of course, I'm not hearing it. And I really probably didn't understand it until just a couple years ago. But definitely parents were heavy into me understanding like um, you are going to be different and we are going to get you in a mindset to go be great.
Amazing. Now, so you get to Clemson, you're playing volleyball. Did you have a sense of like from an education standpoint, like who uh, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know a ton about
Yeah.
volleyball, right? But volleyball is probably not something you can play like deep into adulthood, right?
Yes, I fully understood that.
Yeah. And so did you like from an academic standpoint, right? And who you wanted to be? I'm sure your
Yeah.
parents were saying, "Listen, you're at Clemson,
Yeah.
volleyball player, okay? It's you got to continue to take your studies seriously, right?
Oh
If you
yeah.
want to become who you can become, right? We need to continue keeping our foot on the gas pedal, right?
Yes.
What was your thoughts when you were at Clemson as far as like who you wanted to be at the time?
So I have two answers for you, and I'll start with the first one. I shared before I early enrolled into Clemson. So I'm 17 years old. I get there in January of 2020. Now, I am doing pretty good when I get there because I've been kind of used to a schedule of you do school, go practice, you come home. I've been balancing what it's like to travel, that sort of thing. And we're in the
Hmm.
off season, which I think helps. I've always said I am a big advocate of graduating early and early enrolling because I think it gets you adjusted a little bit quicker than going in summer. And
Hmm.
but I get there. What I now needed to factor in was mom and dad are not there to not put a little leash around me and the fact that I have all this freedom. I will say my parents did try to fight that at first because they did send me up there with no car, even though I was 2 hours away from home. And they said, you need to go earn a car. And so that made me pretty focused on at least academically because my dad said, we'll talk about a car when the time is right. And I'll never forget, and this kind of goes into my go-getter mindset. I made a pitch presentation, and said, if I get a 3.0 GPA at the end of the semester, I don't mess up, I don't do this, this is the car I want. And my dad was like, "All right, we'll see. We'll revisit this." And I was like, "Okay, so I won't mess up." And I made sure not to mess up academically and keep a pretty narrow focus. But now you do have to factor in that I am experiencing college and there's
Right.
so much to do. And for me, I didn't grow up doing anything. So now I'm opening Pandora's box, if you will. But you learn to figure it out, especially when a little thing called COVID hits in March of 2020. And so I always say I got what, 2.5 months of real college, and then it went to nothing. And so that was a very interesting time in college trying to navigate this pandemic. You all of a sudden go where you have all this freedom, and then boom, I'm back home. I'm living with mom and dad. There's
Right.
nothing
Not
going,
leaving the
not
house.
leaving the house. And honestly, that was a difficult transition for me because I think at first, when you don't know, you're fine because you don't know. Then you go off to college for a little bit, go experience, and then you come back to nothing. That's a very weird time to live in. But that I wasn't fully equipped with. And also during that time it was a little difficult, some other things going on with we don't know what's season going to look like. I don't even know if volleyball is going to exist. So you're talking about academically. I think I really understood more probably than other people like volleyball is going to end one day. And who knows if it's going to be by a pandemic, if it's going
Right.
to be by a degree or what. But I need to focus on my life.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, and I mean, and I know that that was a hard time for a lot of folks because
Yeah.
you're doing classes virtually, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so to actually take court, to take school seriously when you're, sit in your pajamas, like doing classes for the very first time, I can imagine that was tough.
Yeah.
But did you know what you wanted? So you've now got a sense that volleyball may not be forever.
Yes.
From a pure job perspective, are you starting to think, okay, well, who knows how long this is going to last? I'm going to need to be an adult one day. Like maybe this might be who I want to become, or kind of where
I'm
were you at
not
at that time?
I'm not there yet, but I did declare my major and I picked philosophy. And that
Okay.
was a very interesting major where people were saying, Colleen, why are you majoring in philosophy? Like, you're not going to earn any money with that. And I was like, I love philosophy. And I think
Well,
it
it teaches you how
helps.
to think too, right? A lot of very smart
Exactly.
people go from philosophy to all sorts of different careers.
Yeah.
So, uh,
And I looked forward to going to my major specific classes, like maybe not the gen eds that I had to do, but when you're talking about happiness and the good life for an hour 15, that's not a bad place to go to after your 6:30 lift, or even it teaches you to think about ethics of things, like what is my value system going to be? So I'll be honest, I didn't have it all figured out at that age, but it was teaching me slowly but surely what is my values? What are the things that mean the most to me? Um, kind of how do I want my life to kind of unfold and become, but a very interesting, major to pick, but I loved it.
do you think your major, and this just kind of dawned, do you think your major in what you learned about, again, the good life and happiness
Yeah.
and probably making an impact goes into
Mhm.
that, right? Do you think like your major led you to where you are today, which we'll get into in a little bit here?
100%. And I think it helps you, especially like, my life isn't perfect, but it helped me understand, like, well, how are you going to live a good life even when you're going through maybe some difficult moments? And how are you going to find a way to still go after the things that you want in your life? And not only just for myself, but thinking about that I'm not the center of the universe. If I have the opportunity to connect with you like we have in real life, like how do I make sure that I'm not just revolving my little world around myself, but making sure I have a smile on my face, make sure I show you respect and kindness and that sort of thing because we're all just people living for the first time. trying to figure it out. And,
Yep.
so I do think that's carried me a long way.
So I know you had an amazing volleyball career,
Yeah.
a decorated career. I know you went to Mizzou, right?
Yeah.
Following Clemson. And at some point, you discovered Sports Business Classroom, which is
Yeah.
how we originally connected. Tell the story about how you discovered Sports Business Classroom and just walk us through what the whole thing meant to you.
So I'll yap a little bit, but it'll paint the picture on how exactly I got connected with this. Well, I would say I graduated Clemson early, so I graduated in 3 years. I would say around the end of year two, so second semester of year two, which was the springtime. That was the worst semester of my entire life. I went through so many medical mishaps, like not even like it wasn't like I broke my foot, it was medical things. I got COVID. They had me quarantined in an isolated house all by myself for like 3 weeks. And then that was the worst semester I've ever done academically. That was the worst C. Like that, I think I got a C or a D in one of my classes. Never had that in my life. In my life.
Wow.
Okay. Not only that, but going through a coaching change also. And me and my coach were not really seeing eye to eye on a lot of different things. And so just a very difficult semester. And the end of that semester, I ended up joining my sorority, which is Alpha Kappa Alpha, AKA. And that reshifted my focus. And I was like, all right. And, going back to the philosophy, I can't go back in time with what just happened in my life, but I can move forward from it. And I joined my sorority and I'm feeling inspired because I'm surrounded by young women who, again, they look like me, but they also foresee a path that's larger than where they're at in their lives and where they want to grow. And I'm feeling very inspired. Anyways, my I'm like, all right, I want to start joining some organizations at Clemson because I think I'm not finding happiness in volleyball right now. I need to
Okay.
go figure out who I am outside of it. So now, yes, I've been great. Well, besides this semester, great academically, I'm focused, but I haven't really figured out where I want to go next or what I want my job to be. So I just start joining these organizations. I do Tiger Leadership Academy and I do something called Multicultural Alliance Group. And so that, promoted a lot of diversity efforts within the athletic department. And the Leadership Academy did the same thing. And then I get invited to join something called Power Women's Leadership Group. So now I'm feeling so much better. I feel rejuvenated. I feel like, okay, now I'm inspired. I'm ready to go be a go-getter again. Well, my student athlete development lead was like, hey, we're going to take a group of student athletes to Houston. Who wants to go? And it was Black Student Athlete Summit. And I'm like, truthfully, in my head, I'm like, free trip to Houston, sign me up. Like, I'm all over this. I really had not done the research about what Black Student Athlete Summit was. I go, and you talk about being inspired. It was
Right.
being surrounded by, I think at the time it was 350, 400 other student athletes who also are starting to figure out their sport is going to end too, and how to be able to connect not just socially, but hey, I want to go be a lawyer one day, or I want to go be a CEO, or I want to go own a business. And I think at this time, like NIL had just started, so people weren't really maybe people were trying to figure out like marketing, branding, who they are, that sort of thing. Well, anyways, I go. I'm so inspired. I'm feeling so good, not just internally, but now I'm feeling like I have intentional efforts on where I want to go and grow. And I never forget in the middle of it, Dr. Leonard Moore comes downstairs and he's chatting up with some people. It's around breakfast time. I go up and I introduce myself to him. And I say to him, I just want to thank you so much for hosting this event. This has been such a meaningful event for me to go to, especially during this time in my life. I'd love to stay connected. Well, he gives me his contact information, introduces me to his lovely wife as well. We have a great conversation. Anyways, moving forward, I go through the rest of the summit. Incredible experience. When we are on the plane ride home, a opportunity gets posted. Well, no, not the plane ride home. We literally landed in Greenville, South Carolina. We're on the drive back to Clemson. An opportunity gets posted, and all it says is NBA Summer League Immersive Experience. And now I'm starting to figure out I love sports. I want to be around sports. I don't know what I want to do in sports, but I know I want to be around sports. I'm like, NBA Summer League experience, sign me up. And
Las Vegas, right? You're in you.
I don't even
Okay.
think I knew it was in Las Vegas. All I saw was the little graphic that they put in, I think it was like a Slack or something similar. As soon as I get into my apartment, I drop all my bags. I get on my computer. I type up this email to Dr. Moore. I attach my resume and do a cover letter and also say, thank you so much again for hosting this event. He says, Colleen, you're the first person to submit anything. And said basically, I hope for the best, that you get this experience, but thank you again. Let me know if you ever need anything. And all I ever think about is like, okay, I submitted it, we'll see. I end up getting it and learning a little bit more about it. And it was me and one male student athlete that got selected from Black Student Athlete Summit. And he was a basketball player at UCF down in Florida. And I'll never forget, we get on the Zoom with, you think it's you or it's the
Brandon
representative
Walker.
No, Brandon Walker and the representative from Meta, not you yet.
Okay.
You.
Yeah, yeah.
And they are like serious as can be. And you know how much Brandon likes to joke around. And he's like, I need you two to really understand this is a serious experience that you're going to get. People, you know, from around the world, not just the US, are coming to this because they want to break through a sports position. And maybe they want to be future GMs, maybe they want to be coaches, maybe they want to do broadcast journalists. You need to understand the opportunity that you have in front of you and that it's not just some free trip to Las Vegas for, a week or two. So now, Sergio, I'm getting a little nervous, not because I don't want to do it, but because I did not play basketball. I tried to play basketball for a year. That was not for me. And I don't know the X's and O's of it. And I'm thinking I'm going to get quizzed on what a pick and roll is. And truthfully,
Right.
I don't even know what that is. And so I'm starting to get nervous. And I had a friend who was getting drafted that year, and I texted him. I was like, how do I learn basketball in a month? And he was like, I could give you some basics, but that's pretty much it. And so, I was joking around with not just with him, with some of my other friends, and end up before I'm like, I think that's all I'm going to be able to learn during this time. And so I made the choice before I even got there. I'm going to go to this experience and just soak in information and just kind of be a sponge to the entire experience that is before me. And I get there and I'm like, oh my God. First off, I'm 19 years old. I'm also a woman. Um, I'm not expecting how many people are here. I'm getting a little overwhelmed at all the messages and people talking about real decisions that are going into the upcoming draft. Uh,
Yeah.
People that they've heard is going to be traded or why they made certain moves. And I'm just feeling a lot of emotions. And so, but then I get here to Las Vegas for the NBA Summer League, and it was such an incredible experience. And, I know I'm going to keep yapping about it if you don't mind. But
No, I mean, listen, that story makes me so happy because to be honest with you, like I remember having the conversations with Brandon Walker and Meta, and I had actually forgotten, to be honest with you, that you were one of the folks that were selected.
yeah,
So this is like, Brandon and I go way, way back, okay? And this is really a full circle moment for me
yeah.
because this is something that him and I put together,
Mhm.
and here we are today. So, and I think that that's just a common thread in sports, right? Is like, it really is kind of a small knit group, right?
Yeah,
Especially in basketball, and when you do good things for people, do right by people, like good things happen. But yeah, that really actually makes me even more excited to be here with
yeah,
you because I didn't realize that that was the backstory.
yeah.
Um, but so you get to SBC,
Yeah.
okay? You're not a basketball person,
Not a
right?
basketball person.
And for those folks listening, like SBC is pretty heavy basketball, right?
Pretty,
Like we we,
pretty
we
heavy.
developed a program for people who, want to work in basketball. Now, that's not to say we do have amazing instructors and
Yeah.
amazing people who I think very similar to your coaches growing up, right?
Mhm.
Can identify talent,
Yeah,
right? And know a winner and somebody who wants to grow when they can see it, right?
exactly.
And that's one of the beauties of SBC, which I'm sure that you ended up finding
Yeah.
out.
Well, funny, I get there and I picked to be the salary cap major because at this point I was majoring in philosophy in school at Clemson. I'm starting to realize, well, maybe I don't know anything about basketball, but maybe law school might be an option for me. I am
Hmm.
heavily academic, and I thought the salary cap would be very important for me to understand. I didn't think at this time I would be good at media or broadcasting. I didn't want to do that. And I certainly was not trying to be a scout for a team. And so I picked to be the salary cap major. Well, I get there and I will never forget the first night. We have this welcoming, and I'm still feeling these same emotions of overwhelmed, like, oh, what am I doing here? But I'm just gonna soak in all the information. And Steve Steinbaum gets up on that stage and starts his entire thing of being able to explain how to just, at the end of the day, start this experience with a good footing. And he's sharing all of these great stories, and we're laughing, we're having a good time, and he's kind of explaining like everyone has to start from somewhere. Well, this is really resonating to me because again, I don't know much about basketball, but it's making me think, hey, maybe I don't know much about basketball, but I do have other strengths in other areas. And although I don't know exactly where I want to go in my future, I know it's going to be in sports. And I
Hmm.
know that this is going to be a good experience for me, regardless of where I want to go. So I'm like, I'm feeling much better now that he has gotten up on the stage and made us feel all comfortable. Well, lo and behold, Steve ends up picking me out the crowd to go do an activity with him. And I was like, oh my God, like, of course this would happen to me. I get up on the stage and we have to do, and I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but we have to do an improv circuit where he's saying, you need to pretend to be my boss. And I'm
Hmm.
explaining some things to you, and it's kind of like acting in a way. It has nothing really to do with sports, but just a little bit that we're doing back and forth. And he says, you just be yourself, and we'll do this conversation back and forth. And he says something like, oh, boss, I'm so sorry. I forgot to do this one assignment. And I'm like, it's all right. How about we set a deadline for the next time? And I don't remember exactly what I said, but we're doing, this great thing back and forth. At the end of it, he's like, let's give a round of applause for Colleen. So everyone in the crowd gives me a round of applause. And he says, I can tell that you lead with, your heart and that you have a very charismatic personality, but you're also able to have a little bit of humor back and forth because I think I said a joke or two. And he said, you have a light that is going to be able to help you shine on other people. And don't let anyone try to really bring you down. Well, ever since he said that, I was like, okay, I'm going to take that and run with it. And I'm not going to be bogged down by all of these emotions that I'm feeling like, hey, I'm not where some of these other people are. I wasn't a basketball player, but that I'm going to continue to be a sponge, but I'm also going to use the strengths that I know I have in my heart to help me throughout this experience.
Amazing. No, I mean, look, it just goes back to, just people throughout your life, right? Like seeing
Yeah.
things in you that maybe you hadn't seen,
Yeah.
you know, um, one of my mentors, the late great George Raveling, always used to say that like one of the greatest skills you can develop is you learn to unlearn, right? And by that meaning like unlearn maybe things that you had thought about yourself, right? Like what you thought everybody thought about you, right? Your
Hmm.
perception, right, of who you should be, right? And so here Steve comes around, sees something in you that maybe, you had some sort of a sense, but
Yeah.
validates that in you.
Validates
And
it. Yeah.
now you're like, okay, this is who I am, and
Yeah.
this is who I'm going to be moving forward. And I think that's fantastic. And I think your experience with that is what we've, in a lot of different ways, what we've experienced with a lot of our students. And I think that that's why so many folks that come through our program just find it so powerful. And what, our leadership team is really just so proud of, right? Is that we create that environment where, where people can almost find themselves and find their
Yeah.
voice and become, take a step towards who they're like destined to be.
Absolutely. And I think that's so necessary. I feel like so many other, programs that I hear about or people that I know that have gone to other programs, they're like, well, I mean, I don't really think I got mentored. I don't really think there was really a leadership or personal development side of things. It was all just information. And sure, you are going to get information when you go to this program. A ton of it. There's going to be office hours. There's going to be, the project that you have to work on with the team. But there are going to be times where you're going to be able to have the opportunity to develop personally and professionally and figure out, well, who do I want to be, not just in this experience, but throughout my career in sports, wherever that takes me.
Right. No, and I think just as far as the program goes, when people show up, like nobody there knows who you are,
Yeah.
right? For the most part, nobody knows who you are. And you are there because, I mean, it is an aspirational program, right?
Yeah.
It is like, I want to work in basketball, or I want to work in sports, and here I am,
Yeah.
right? And the wonderful thing is that the environment's so inviting, or we try to make it that way, that it's like, look, nobody knows who you are. You get to be and act like the person that you want to become here, right?
Exactly.
And so we find that like the program is a turning point for folks, and like they go home, and SBC is forever a part of them because like they just essentially had an identity change during the
Yeah.
program that we found lasts a lifetime. That's why we're all so proud of it.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little. So you went through SBC. You had an
Yeah.
amazing experience, right? Like Steve gave you an amazing
Yes.
compliment that changed the way that you viewed yourself, which is wonderful. He's an amazing human being.
Absolutely.
Um, you graduate from Mizzou, and were you? I know. I think I saw in your resume that you worked as an NIL coordinator. Was
Yeah.
that like during school or was that post SBC?
So it was it was it was both. So
Okay.
I'm the NIL coordinator for Mizzou right now. But
Okay.
my last year at Mizzou, I kind of did an internship with them. And so I was able to kind of help out with things like website development, that sort of thing, understanding the X's and O's of what goes into we are a marketing agency technically, whereas other schools have collectives. And so
Mm-hmm.
being able to understand, well, what does it mean to be working for an agency where we do subcontract student athletes with the university, while technically being an outside extension of a separate corporation. And so I did that as my second year at Mizzou, which was 2024. And then now I am the NIL coordinator.
So for folks who want to get into NIL, right? Obviously hot topic,
Yes.
both good and bad, right? There's
Yeah.
both good and bad. tell our listeners a little bit, like, there's the skills that you're using on a day to day, like, share as much as you can about what your day to day looks like and like what you're actually trying to accomplish.
Let me tell you right now, my day to day is different every single day. And if you're a go-getter, if you want to work in sports, if you like the wake up and go grind mentality, this is for you. But like you said, there are good days and then there are difficult days, but it's not difficult in a way where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go get another job. It's difficult because NIL is such a new concept that
Mm-hmm.
you really are figuring it out along the way. There's not really an established system that has been here for years, especially with the house settlement that just passed this past summer. And mind you, I got hired this past June. It passes in on July 1st, right after I get hired, but it forces you to be ultra creative about, hey, sure, this thing has happened, but how are you going to get around it? And how are you going to learn from it to be better the next time around, or the next semester, or the next time we have to bring in a transfer, etc. Um, I will say, how I was able to become an NIL coordinator uh, was one, the things I learned through SBC, and two, actually, a connection I made while being out there. So I'll start with the connection piece first. I'm at the hotel, about to head to the arena. And of course, I'm wearing my super nice Mizzou athlete
Mm-hmm.
backpack for the week. And I'm walking out the doors, and a man stops me and says, "Oh, do you go to Mizzou?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, I'm a student athlete." He's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm working for SBC because I was, being able to intern there now. I'm working for SBC." He's like, "What's that?" I'm explaining to him about the program and how I got to be there. And I'm like, "Look, I'm late. I'm running late. I gotta get to the arena." And he was like, "Well, here's my contact information. Just let's stay in touch. I'm a Mizzou grad myself." Didn't really share too much about himself. Well, it turns out that this man is actually a very pretty high up there in the athletic department and has a lot of connections in the Columbia, Missouri area. Well, we've stayed in touch for every single time. And, last summer when he was in Vegas, we catched up again and was just able to talk about uh, not just me and where I wanted to grow, but, being able to get the position that I got now. And we were talking about where the future of NIL is going to go, just a big help. But who knows? I maybe probably would have got my job had I never gone to SBC in the first place. So that was just interesting. But two, the skill set I learned, of course, I'm not going to become an expert in the salary cap at the end of SBC, but you learn a little bit. You learn how to think like a front office and think like
Mm-hmm.
an executive. And nowadays, especially with the house settlement and the way, in my opinion, NIL is starting to grow into, well, it certainly helps to have a thought process in how a front office might think about a situation, or how to structure roster salaries in a way that align with the budget that you're allocated for certain sports. Especially,
Mm-hmm.
with revenue share, that's something that you have to think about nowadays. Like, what is your budget? How much do your athletes, allocate for? What does it look like, not just for this year, but every single recruiting cycle within the next couple of years? How are you going to save space for transfers? How that sort of thing. And I'll never forget when we have to do obviously the project, or just looking at the slide decks from SBC. Do you know how helpful that was for me? Because yes, I'm in my first year working, but to go to my sports specific coaches, be 23 years old at the time, and have an entire pitch deck that says, this is the plan that I think we should use for next year. I think we need to be in, and I'm just using this for example, a rebuilding year, restructuring year because of X, Y, and Z. This is how I would structure it. Of course, you understand as the NIL coordinator, you are not coach. Only coach gets to make that decision. but it certainly gives you a nice little, resume for yourself.
Sure, it shows how you think, right? Like that you're
Exactly.
actually thinking about these things in an intelligent way that allows you to actually contribute to the conversation.
Exactly. And so I hugely thank SBC for opening my mind, not just in that way, but also understanding we are a marketing agency. We have to create campaigns for other people. And even though I didn't do the media and broadcasting, understanding how that world thinks, what is good PR, or even like scouting and analytics, how other people might go and scout and figure out who is an athlete. How do you kind of pick their brain in the right way and make sure you're picking the right person for rosters? I think it just gave me such a all-encompassing view.
Hmm.
Also, maybe my philosophy major gives me perspective on how to view a lot of different things in a lot of different light. And sure, you're going to have wins and losses. That's any job that you choose to pick. But I definitely felt like I got to approach at least my role right now with a high level of confidence and saying, hey, I think this could be good based on the experiences that I got here.
Amazing. And you know what? That makes that I think anybody who's listening, especially our executive team, would be super proud to hear about all that, right? Because all we're trying to do with SBC, not only educate you and give you the tools that you need in order to just be able to think and contribute to the conversation, right? That's what we're trying to do is create folks that are actually ready to actually contribute. But just create opportunities. We are here as an organization to give bright young people who want to put in the work and want to put themselves out there the opportunity to become who they can become. And it sounds like the program's been a great conduit for you.
Absolutely.
So I want to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
So post college. I know you decided to go play professional volleyball in Greece.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about like that decision, what that was like, and kind of where that all landed.
If I told you ever in my life before I went to Mizzou that I would go play professional volleyball, I would have told you no. And not just a no of like sense of belief in myself. That was something I never wanted to do. I really didn't. I thought like when I'm done, I'm done. I want to go work. I want to go earn some money. Like that was really my thought process. I get to Mizzou. Also, keep in mind when I was at Clemson, I wasn't a bad player, but I was pretty average. Like I was kind of averaging numbers for my position. Transfer to Mizzou, get there. I'm surrounded by great coaching staff, great girls on the team, great support system, great community. And I think that really allowed me to really elevate as a player. And it really translated on the court. My numbers my first year were like, you go my numbers at Clemson like this. Mizzou, like this. Seriously. First year, I averaged over 300 for a hitting percentage. That had been my goal for the last like 3 years I was at Clemson, was to be consistent enough to get over 300. Never was able to do it. I think I was doing like 225 or something. Finally get to 300. My second year, and my also keep in mind, my coach is like, "Oh, you ever want to go play pro?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm really good." Second year comes around. My coach, beginning of the season, we're having a meeting. She's like, Colleen, you still thinking about not going pro? Oh, and I was like, yeah, like, I just don't want to do it. Middle of the semester comes. She's like, Colleen, I'm going to be honest with you. And this is us having a heart to heart. I think you should think about going pro. And I was like, but Dawn, why should I go do this? They don't make that much money. Um, I just I don't see it working. All I've ever seen is like women that go to Nebraska or Texas go play volleyball overseas and it becomes their whole life. That's just not me. She's like, just think about it a little bit more. Well, I go home that night, and for the first time ever, I'm starting to get these thoughts, and I think I had a dream about it. I was like, you know what? I have always wanted to go travel. So I guess if I'm going to go travel, this might be my outlet to do it. But then I start thinking about it, and my numbers my second year are really going up, like through the roof, very consistent at a very high level. And then I start to think, Colleen, you're going to regret this the rest of your life if you do not do it. And this is probably the only time in your life you're going to be able to do it. And I said, you know what, Dawn? I want to go pro. Like, how do I do it? I don't know anything. I don't know how to get into that. And volleyball is very different. Like, there's not a big major. They just had a US draft within the last 2 years.
Hmm.
And she was like, well, one, do you want to play in the US? And I said, Dawn, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it overseas. I want the whole travel experience and being abroad. She was like, all right. I ended up starting to get hit up by some agents that wanted to work with me. I ended up signing with an agent that actually my assistant coach, who was a four-time national champion, she signed with when she went to go play professionally. So I felt like that was a very natural connection. Still approaching this maybe not in the right mindset at the time and thinking this is going to be an extended study abroad where volleyball was going to be a side quest. Uh, so yeah, that was a decision that went into it. When I get overseas, you know, God humbled me real quick, really quick. And you also need to keep in mind, Mizzou was a great environment for me. Fantastic. I ended my career at Mizzou third all time in hitting percentage. And then not only that, I had two nicknames at Mizzou, the networker and Barbie. I mean, I'm feeling on top of the moon. I could talk to anybody. I was so confident. You couldn't, not in like an arrogant way, but like you could not tell me who I was. I felt good about myself. I'm doing great academically. I'm setting myself up for success. I get overseas and boom, nothing. Forget being 13 hours away from Columbia, South Carolina. I'm across the world. I'm
Hmm.
it's the time difference. I'm in a small town in Greece. My coach didn't speak English. I'm getting a rough translation from the girls on my team. Also, cultural differences. I am from the South. I enjoy walking past people with a smile on my face and talking to them. That's a little bit different over there. The girls on the team are not so welcoming. They weren't rude or anything, but just they didn't want to go hang out socially after practice or that sort of thing. Um, Very tough. And then you have factors like not paying on time. In US, you sign a contract. That thing's pretty airtight. Over there,
Right.
it's a little bit looser. But I will say this, as unenjoyable as that experience was in it, I don't regret it. I'm glad I did it. And it was the first time in my life, kind of like COVID, where I had a clear direction on where I wanted to go in isolation. Whereas COVID, I was kind of like still lost in a way. It made me really focus on who was I gonna be when I get back home? Who
And
was
who is that?
I truthfully, that the person that I said I wanted to be when I get back home was still the same charismatic person that was on the court and was, a little cocky, little running her mouth a little bit, and it was able to experience life, but with more intention. And I wanted to be able to share the message of how athletics did not just help me grow into the third career history all time at Mizzou or, the number 18 middle blocker in the country. It was that sports helped me gain confidence to feel good about myself, to approach life and know that even though I don't know anything about basketball, that I can still become a top performer at sports business classroom or even in the world that I can hold my shoulders back and wear heels and dress up and not think about what other people are thinking about of me. And I really did believe sports gave me the ability to do that. And I wanted to share that message when I got back home because I realized my playing days were over.
So talk a little bit about that. So you've now come back from Greece,
Yeah.
right? And you've decided that okay, you want to share the message, right?
Yeah.
You want to share all the wonderful experiences that you've had through
Yeah.
sports, all the lessons you've learned. You had quite a bit of adversity, right?
Yeah.
You had a lot of highs, you had a lot of lows. Talk about like the moment when you figured out like the medium through which you were going to
Yeah.
actually like deliver that message.
So I will say, I come home, I'm in this fun employed sense. That's what I like to
Fun
call it
employed, I
with my
like that.
parents. And I'm living at their house and I'm trying to figure this out. And my first thought process was I wanted to just do mentoring because I had been doing mentoring before, but it was specific to just volleyball players. Well, I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm like, "Ugh, all the stuff that I really would like to share with mentoring is more of the recruiting side and trying to help, but I don't want to be a coach." And so I knew that wasn't going to be the avenue. Then I'm like, should I do a website that's specific to recruiting? Ah, not piquing my interest. Well, I'm going through all these $1 million and no kidding, it's like my brain just doesn't stop sometimes. I have a million ideas running through my brain. Well, one day I go to sleep and I have a dream about a woman named Daja. Daja is a woman from South Carolina. Daja won Miss South Carolina a couple years ago. My sister used to compete in pageants, and that's how I know Daja. And I was like, Daja, I haven't talked to Daja in years. And truthfully, I know her husband, CJ, better because CJ played football at Clemson and used to train me when I was at Clemson. I'm like, why am I thinking about Daja right now? Then I start thinking, wait, I think I should do a pageant. And then I started to really think about it over the next couple days. I used to compete in pageants when I was a girl, around that same age where I had kind of quit soccer as well. And I didn't think that was for me because of my own insecurities, and I wasn't grounded in who I was, and that I was doing them for all the wrong reasons to get that validation. Like for me, I was doing the pageant because I wanted the crown. I wanted someone to pick me, essentially.
Hmm.
Whereas now I had a foundation in who I was. I didn't need someone to tell me that I look good or beautiful or that I was, I have a lot going for myself. I now understand this internally. And I said, I think that this would be such a great opportunity to merge these two worlds together that combine athletics and pageantry. And I have never really seen, and there are a couple of outliers that have been a former athlete, but haven't really tapped into a platform rooted in how sports help develop women. And
Hmm.
so I said, I want to do the Miss America organization because of their commitment to scholarship, service, style, and success. And those all resonate very much in my story, and share how I think sports can help develop women so that they can go be a Division 1 or professional athlete, a C-suite executive, or even Miss America. And what better group to try and reach that through, not just in pageantry, being able to share how sports can help you go to pageantry, but also in sports to say how this is a great group of young women that are successful, that know what it means to earn and maintain scholarships, that have their own personal style, but also that are just great women. Why not go be Miss America? You have all the skills in the resume to go do it, especially with NIL. You understand what it means to make a social media brand and how to connect with marketing companies, and not the traditional runway modeling that you might think of for a pageant winner or contestant, but why don't you go do fitness modeling? And
Hmm.
being able to advocate for that, like your experience is what you make of it. And I said, I think there's something great here. And this is the platform of why I chose the Miss America organization to be able to share that message.
Well, it's a wonderful message, and I was absolutely astonished when I read the statistics that you share on your website,
Yeah.
as far as C-suite executives that
Yeah.
grew up playing sports.
Mhm.
And I did my research. I saw that you've got this platform called Play Her Potential.
Yeah.
Talk a
So
little bit about Play Her Potential and what you're working on accomplishing through that platform.
absolutely. So let's, for those that are listening that may not know these statistics, 38% of girls don't participate in sports, and they drop out at a 2-to-1 ratio when compared to boys their own age by the age of 14. Well, I think back to my own life, and that connected well with my own story as well, because I was around the age of 14 when I quit playing soccer. And had my mom not encouraged me to play volleyball, I don't know if I'd be the same woman standing in front of you. I don't even know if we would have ever even met.
Right.
But in understanding that, I was like, okay, well, my niche focus is going to be these girls age 5 to 14 because that is such a critical window to engage them in sports, for them to understand um their confidence level, how to have good mentors around them, and to be accessible. I had the privilege of having parents that could afford to fly me across the country to go chase my dreams. But there's a lot of people that don't have that same ability. And these are all three factors that I identified as being able to contribute to why girls don't participate in sports and why they drop out at such a high rate. Well, that was kind of like the basics of Play Her Potential, because the mission of it isn't to try and say like, oh, I want every girl to go be a Division 1 or professional athlete. That's not the goal. The goal is, how can you understand that sports can be a tool to help you unlock the woman that you are destined to be, essentially. Whether that is a Division 1 or professional athlete, whether that is a C-suite executive, or if it's Miss America. There's so many different paths sports can take you. I even think about sports business classroom. You might have people that want to go be front office executives, but maybe you do have someone who wants to go be a sideline reporter, or maybe she wants to be Miss America. Who knows? But the possibilities are endless. I believe sports gives you a very good foundation. And so, thinking about just that as a foundation for what Play Her Potential is, I aim to do that in a lot of the community service that I do. But where I wanted to grow and scale and expand it was in the other statistics, and knowing 94% of C-suite executives that are women have a sports background in whatever capacity that looks like. And that's not just looking at people who played at a university level, which is 51%, might I add. But when I saw that, I was like, well, there is a room to scale this into leadership development and also fitness experiences. So, I do a couple of fun, like hot works events, or maybe go partner with a yoga studio and we might put on an event that way. But like, how can I go and help people understand these organizations where they want to go work in sports? I met with so many different women that are like, hey, I'm trying to work in sports one day, don't know how to break in. Well, why don't you go out to Immersive Experience? Or why don't I help you unlock your potential and maybe pass the age of my niche focus to get you ready for the next step in your life? And not just that, but I've been able to, like, one of the most proud accomplishments that I had so far was I had a group of young women, well, women who are former athletes and now they're in law school. And I took them to the Missouri Supreme Court and met with we have a female majority here in Missouri, three female Supreme Court justices who all had a sports story to tell. And we sat and had a round table talking about life and how sports has helped us and where we can grow and how to be a mentor to all three of these women. And that was just such an incredible experience, but it also embodies what it is I'm trying to do. I want to be able to help connect young women with opportunities like this to see how, yeah, I got the little girls excited about sports. I help them maybe get them to the next level and get them inspired for their future. But now that maybe they're in college or done with college. What is the next step? Leadership development. I'm going to get you inspired about what's to come and how sports can help you for the rest of your life and not just in the brief window that you might have played it.
I love that. I love that, and I've experienced this myself. Like I said, my daughter's 8, and so
Yeah.
she's at the very beginning of her journey. But I have seen how it kind of has transformed her sense of self,
Yeah.
right? And she's very good at her sport. It's really taught her the value of hard work.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll share this with you. Last week, she had some wins and a bad loss,
Yeah.
and it teaches her to deal with adversity,
Yeah.
right? So I think, that's one of the beautiful things about sports is it teaches, no matter who you are, you're going to have wins, you're going to have losses, and all the emotions of, the human condition, right? And I think
Absolutely.
that's one of the reasons why, those that you mentioned, right? Young ladies who stick with it end up being so successful, right? Is because it's almost like getting reps at the real world
Yes.
before you actually need to.
And you're making such a great point because every person that I talk to that is hiring people or is looking for people to get a job say they want to hire former athletes. Why? Because of the same things you just mentioned.
Yep. Yep. Bless you.
Thank you.
Uh, what So what are some of the things that let's say there's folks out there listening right now that are like, Colleen, I hear you, right? Like I want to be a part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
What are some things that people can do to either support you, your cause, right? How do people, help you and your initiatives?
So, number one, I post things out via social media pretty much constantly. My personal Instagram is at Colleen Teresa with two A's at the end. And my platform, Play Her Potential, is also on social media. And if you can't find Play Her Potential, which that one should be the easiest, trust me, I collaborate with both pages often. Um, those are the main ways you'll see some of the things that I've been able to do. I also have a website called playherpotential.org where I post out some of the other things that I've been able to do. You can research a little bit more into my background, maybe see some of the partnerships that I've been able to do. But if you want, and you're like, hey, I got a great idea for you. I think we could really connect on something. Hit me up or we can figure it out. Again, I love being creative. There is a space to contact me through that website directly. And you can email me, go straight to my personal email, and that way I can respond to it and say, hey, I would love to do this event with you. Uh, how can we figure this out? This is how I'm brainstorming. So yeah, just a couple of ways how you can stay posted and contact and that sort of thing.
Awesome. Well, I want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
Um, few last questions here for you. Any daily habits or like things that you kind of engage in every day that you feel like are like fundamental to who you are?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I used to not be a routine type of person. I really hated to be the hamster on the wheel, hence why I'm working in NIL. I love just my day-to-day being different. But I wake up every single day and I do my morning routine. And I have that same morning routine every single day. And I have a night routine. And I stick with those every single day. Now, my routines are mainly around skincare, but it gives me a reason to say, okay, I'm up, I'm getting started. And I'm very much a look good, feel good, play good type of person. And it helps me feel like I've started my day out on a good note.
I love that. I love that.
I'd
Um,
say just one more is just like I also learn another aspect of confidence is preparation. And so any
Absolutely.
way I can just be prepared a little bit more for the day that I have coming up helps me out a ton.
So there were some pretty cool quotes that I came across
Yeah.
in doing my research, like stuff that you had written, stuff on your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to just give me a few lines about each of these if you could.
Okay.
One of them, um, I think it's your LinkedIn profile, says "Do everything in love."
Yeah,
What is that? Tell me about what that means.
absolutely. So Sergio, you and I have met. For people that might be listening have maybe never met me before. I always, and maybe this goes back to my philosophy as well, I know what it feels like to go through a tough time. I don't ever want to make someone feel what I'm going through because you might be going through something yourself. So when I interact with other people or talk with them, whether it's me trying to network or get a job, or even just trying to comfort a friend, I'm trying to understand that, take myself out of the center of the universe. Well, how I do that is I approach every situation with love and care and nurturing and understanding that you are a human being with complex emotions as well. And so I try to greet people with a smile and compliment them and not be fake, but this is genuinely who I am. And I think that that will, if someone isn't actively doing that now, it'll help give you perspective in your life and understanding that when you start to treat people with love and respect and care, well, your life is going to start to feel a lot better yourself.
No question. No question. Next quote. Rome was not built in a day,
Oh,
neither is confidence.
yeah. I love that one. Number one, I'm a huge history buff, so I love to be able to refer to like Rome or something real nerdy. But seriously, the Roman Empire was one of the greatest empires to ever exist. And that did not happen overnight. It happened slowly but surely. There were times that, the Roman Empire lost battles. They won them, but it all went in the direction that it ultimately was a great empire at one point. And guess what? It no longer exists today. And you have to understand that, just like Rome wasn't built in a day, neither is confidence. And there are days, even now, where, I wake up and I'm like, dang, I don't feel so good. Or dang, I shouldn't have eaten that chocolate pie last night. I'm starting to feel it a little bit. But it's a process and you have to enjoy the process part of it rather than just the end result.
No question, I think, and that's, as somebody I've seen just in my position now, I've seen thousands of people such as yourself go through our programs, whether
Yeah.
it's SBC or the NBA Summer League internship. And the truth of the matter is it like none of these good things that happen to people such as yourself happen from one day to the next,
Yeah.
right? It happens one good decision at a time, 1 second at a time, one moment at a time. And I just want to commend you for, it seems like one of the themes in your life is just being willing to step outside your comfort zone,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And do things maybe that you might not have been or that you didn't think you were ready for,
Yeah,
right? And that, it's when you do those things that like real growth happens, right?
absolutely.
And so, congratulations on having the courage to have done that
Thank
all
you.
the way up till now. Um, Congratulations for being on an amazing path. And, our whole community wishes all the best of luck with, I believe, Miss Missouri is coming up. Is that
Yes,
right?
Miss Missouri is coming up.
Yeah, we'll all be rooting for you. And I think also equally as exciting is if you've enjoyed this conversation, you're going to be our podcast host for the next
Yes,
few episodes.
I'm
So
so
can you,
excited.
tell the listeners a little bit about like, what you want to try to accomplish? You don't need to name names as far as
Yeah.
like who you're going to bring on, but tell us a little bit about the conversations you want to have.
Yeah, so also a subset of Play Her Potential, which is my personal platform. I do a small scale talk show where I bring on former professional athletes or just former athletes in general that are all at different stages of their career to be able to emphasize the leadership development that sports is able to give people, especially women. Well, my hope was, when we got connected, to be able to continue sharing that message on an even larger scale and be able to connect with some really great people, interview them, do what we're doing right now, hear your story, and share how, you're not perfect. You're not, this caricature that people might view you in one light, but that you're a real human with complex emotions going through a lot of different things in your life. But guess what? You wake up, you do the conscious choice to be able to become who you are and being able to learn the journey that it took to become them along the way. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to cover the next couple episodes and just learning from some great people.
Well, we look forward to having you, and our audience is lucky to have you as our next host. So, Colleen, thank you for your time. Thank you for just the energy you bring to the world and our world. And thank you for all you do. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, Sergio.
We hope this episode gave you a deeper look into how the lessons learned on the court can translate into the boardroom and inspired you to unlock your potential in the business of sports. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. And also tag us on your IG stories at Sports Business Classroom to share your favorite takeaways. This episode is brought to you by Hall Pass Media, a full-service marketing agency specializing in brand consulting, event management, digital marketing, and creative design. For more information on Hall Pass Media, visit hallpassnetwork.com. See you next time.